Continuing from the previous part, let's move on to what happens after Ed meets Taylor. Taylor's already having a hard time without you, stop bothering him anymore. Taylor next to her also started to speak, are you still in school? Seeing this scene, Ed immediately knew that he had recovered, a fighting spirit that never fell no matter how strong the opponent he faced. His eyes lit up with determination, and then Ed understood. While he was facing the princess, his childhood friend and greatest supporter, Isla Triss, ran towards the door without looking back. Surely she would have come to comfort Taylor. With Isla by his side, Taylor would have stood up again and again. Why are you here? Do you have a problem with me? Taylor asked. Your swordplay is amazing. I saw it again. What are you plotting? Seeing that Taylor was fine, Ed turned and left, leaving the two people behind confused, not knowing what this guy was pretending to be cool for. In the distance, a giant pillar of fire suddenly appeared, catching Ed's attention. According to the plot, people will witness this while sitting in the Nail building. Golden Daughter Lordle and Spirit Sorcerer Jenica Forever sparring in a different form than the original. But I'm sure Taylor and Isla are watching too. Open your eyes, Taylor, because one of the countless challenges is coming your way. The final boss of Act 1 is Jenica Forever. The result of the battle was Jenica's victory, and now the second-year students were surrounding her to congratulate her. At this moment, she also suddenly saw her opponent, lying on a stretcher being carried away. These images made her stunned. Unlike the original where Lucy defeated Taylor, it ended with the main character joining the actual battle. This time, Jenica Forever became the honor guard for the second year. Jenica already has a lot of friends, but this is going to make things even crazier for her. Well, that's good, I won't see her around the tent much anymore. When I get involved with the main character, my head starts spinning. It's been 2 weeks since the general combat. Without the main character, I can focus on studying and surviving without worrying anymore. I have a fishing net, so the food problem is temporarily solved. His stats also improved significantly, stamina 6, intellect 5, talent 9, willpower 8, luck 6. Is it because my stamina stat has increased? I feel my body is getting stronger and stronger. But it was still too early to be lazy, while Jenica was watching from behind. Seeing Ed's naked body, she blushed. Ed, you like being naked? Ed was also flustered. You suddenly appeared here, and what the hell are you saying? Then both of them sat near the fire. Ed was the first to speak. What's wrong with this place that you keep coming back to? This place is my secret place. It makes me feel like an adventurer, and that's fun. I want to talk to you a bit more, and I also need some advice, I guess. Ed was confused here. Advice? Jenica continued, you left early at that time, so you probably didn't notice, but in the joint battle last month, I hurt my junior, you see. I tried to forget, but I guess I tried too hard. I couldn't get that thought out of my mind. Should I go apologize to her, even though my friend will stop me and say it was her fault first? Ed understood the problem and said, do it if you think it's the right thing to do. Looking at the girl in front of him, he began to think, the lovely and lively second-year student Jenica is a precious treasure in many different ways to everyone. So if she feels guilty or blames herself, people will come to her aid and stand by her side. But Jenica knows it's good to have someone by her side. No matter what happens, it still cannot erase what happened. That must be why she came to me. As expected, Ed, you never stand by me unconditionally, she said as she stretched comfortably. Sorry if I offended you. No, you misunderstood. Jenica quickly waved her hand to refuse. I don't find it offensive. In her heart, she also thinks he's different from last year. Jenica may be a cheerful and lively girl, but she's also very perceptive. Even when he asked to borrow money during difficult times, he didn't show the desperation that was common in everyone. This guy was indirectly telling her, don't try to get close. But those aspects of Ed made her feel strangely comfortable. And finally end the day while the forest has fireflies flying up. Tomorrow at this time. Ed walked away with a very worried face. This is serious trouble. Sylvania's Lost Swordsman is called a masterpiece, but very few people see the ending. New players will encounter a lot of bad endings early on. If you save a girl during an ambush by kobolds in the class placement test, you will witness the secret of the Golden Daughter. She will send someone to kidnap Taylor, and that's bad ending 3. Taylor was assassinated. In the monster killing practice part, if you ignore childhood friend Isla and form a relationship with Golden Daughter, then you will go to bad ending 7. Isla died from falling off a cliff. If you protect Golden Daughter from fire spirit summoned by Jenica, then there will be bad ending 3 again. Taylor was burned to death. At this moment, a voice also rang out, Senior, can you not hear me? But actually Ed is trying to run away from her. But he couldn't escape anymore, so he had to say, "Why do you keep following me? I didn't expect you to grit your teeth and ignore me for so long." Hearing the girl's words, Ed thought to himself, of course I have to grit my teeth and ignore you, isn't it obvious? So, the fourth female lead in the failed swordsman of Sylvania is Lordle Ketchuln. She's the only daughter of this big-shot business guy, Eld Ketchuln. People also call her the Golden Daughter or the Rookie Crusher. At that moment, she said, "I want to buy 2 hours of your time, Senior Ed." Lordle Ketchuln is kinda set up as this hidden hero. Unlike Fenia, Lordle's painted as a villain right from the start, but you only get to see her real personality in the second half of the story. That moment when everyone finally gets how lonely and hurt Lordle really is. Players are gonna be stuck choosing between Fenia and Lordle, but I can't let her talk me into anything right now. If I fall for her tricks, I'll totally lose control. So, I decide to ignore everything Lordle says and just move forward. That move leaves her with this totally shocked look on her face. But Lordle is super stubborn. She didn't get called Golden Daughter for nothing. There's no way she would just let it go. So even though Ed is trying to brush her off, Lordle keeps pushing, saying, "You listen to me, I just want to help you." Ed, acting all chill, replies, "Cut the act already." And she's asking, "Seriously, Senior, how can you say that after all the respect I have for you?" Speaking of which, Lordle stepped forward to block Ed. "See? It's inspiring to see you, even in tough situations, you keep studying. Of course, it's not that arrogance and thinking you're the center of the universe, but who really cares? Please listen to my suggestion first." Finally, after some back and forth, Lordle got to the point. She held up 3 gold coins and began to say, "I will pay 3 gold coins as a deposit." "Recently, you've been close with Senior Jenica, right? Can you help me get close to her?" Ed, seeing her make such a tempting offer, started to think a bit. 3 gold coins, huh? For some people, that's like a whole month's salary, but thinking about it. Ed's face turned cold as he leaned in closely to Lordle and said, "This wonderful Golden Daughter is using money to buy relationships," his tone carrying a hint of disdain. But Lordle didn't pay attention to this. She slipped 3 gold coins into Ed's jacket pocket while saying, "Just keep it, you know. I just think the more people on my side, the better." Lordle's words made Ed heighten his guard against her another level. She realized it purely by instinct. That she would have to battle Princess Fenia through politics to dominate this academy. And now she would have to start searching for allies. Thinking this, Ed extended his hand and said, "Okay, then at least let's shake hands." Over here, Lordle extended her hand, her face wearing a faint smile, as if she had achieved her goal with those who had lived their entire lives in wealth. A little bit of poverty is enough to crush their hearts. But surprisingly, for those in such a state, a small amount of money is enough to bring them down. They would sell their entire self-esteem and even themselves to chase after money. The scent of despair from such hopeless people is truly simple. Sadly, things should have been this way. As she thought, Lordle looked at the 3 gold coins in her hand, realizing that when they shook hands earlier, Ed had returned this money to her. Our protagonist never lets us down, and 3 gold coins are not enough to make him sell himself. Interesting, that's what Lordle thinks about Ed when he acts like that. But over here, Ed was gritting his teeth in anger, thinking if he had accepted it, he could have lived better. If so, it would be truly shameful. But I can't even imagine the nightmares I would have to face if I got caught between the new recruit Crusher and Jenica. At all costs, I must avoid anything that could derail the original storyline. That night, Lordle did not feel humiliated by Ed's blunt rejection. Understanding her strengths and weaknesses, benefits, and self-interest, this perfect businesswoman did not let the opportunity slip away. Instead, it fueled her indomitable spirit to turn Jenica Lover into an ally. And that is why tonight, Lordle goes to meet Jenica. "Oh my, Senior Jenica, I didn't expect to see you here," Lordle said with a bright smile. Hearing this, Jenica turned her head. "Oh, it's you, Lordle, your hair down looks different." On this side, Lordle smiled and said, "You know, everyone has been talking about me a lot for using the forbidden intermediate magic in the real battle. It's been a while, but I still want to say sorry, if given the chance." Actually in that battle, Lordle just wanted to see how strong the top student of year 2 was, and because of that, she had to pay a heavy price. Hearing her say that, Jenica also asked, "Your injury hasn't healed yet?" "It should heal soon, you don't need to worry too much, Senior Jenica." From what Lordle thinks, Jenica is very similar to the main characters in fairy tales. Would leveraging her guilt help her control her more easily? Lordle's thinking isn't without basis. But what Jenica says next will startle Lordle. "Your conversation with Ed must have gone smoothly. Why did you suddenly say that?" "I told them to restrain themselves if it's a personal matter, but the spirits love to gossip a lot." Do you know, I can hear most conversations happening around the northern part of the forest? Hearing this, Lordle began to sweat. At that moment, she guessed that what she had said to Ed had been exposed, but Lordle still had to pretend she didn't know anything and asked again, "What do you mean?" At this moment, Jenica approached Lordle and whispered close to her ear with a cold expression, "I feel touched that you voluntarily invested money for me. But you know, money can't buy sincerity. And for me, Ed's choice touched me even more." After saying this, her expression changed 180 degrees back to that of a senior loved by many. "I am feeling a bit proud, am I? Since it's my first time being a senior, I am a bit boastful, right? How embarrassing," she said while smiling and scratching her head. "I have to go now. I need a lot of preparation to make a pact with a high-level spirit. Recently I've received a lot of support, so I have to work harder," she said while turning to leave. Jenica's actions and attitude tonight completely changed Lordle's perception of her. Is Jenica a lover similar to the main character in a fairy tale? I was wrong, a model person. Not at all. Even fully aware of the dark side of this world, she can still maintain her cheerful personality. And at this moment, as Jenica approached the door, she suddenly spoke up, "Oh right, Lordle, I'm sorry about the other day, you got quite hurt because of me, right? I hope you recover soon. This is going to be difficult." But just now, she looked strangely tense, Lordle muttered to herself as she saw Jenica's face like that. And it seems she was right in her guess. "I have to try harder because it feels good when everyone places their hopes in me." The next day, at Ed's hut, Ed had hung a pile of his clothes on the drying lines. Lucy made a face when she saw this scene. It smelled too bad. And then she began using magic to destroy all of this. Ed hurriedly shouted, "Hey, I just hung that up," while he was still trying to figure out how not to go to school naked tomorrow. Then suddenly a voice rang out. "Who is it?" Instinctively, Ed turned to look in the direction of the voice. This girl is the high-ranking maid of the elite dormitory, Ophelis Hall Belmaya. And she is also the one who kicked Ed out of the dormitory, of course. Seeing the one who had thrown him out, Ed wasn't happy at all, but he still had to run over and ask, "Are you talking about this?" Belmaya here didn't even bother to look at Ed. "I know you're here. Jenica has told me a lot about you. Still, I didn't know you were living like this," she said while looking at Ed's survival hut. "Glad to hear you've made a positive change." Ed felt confused after hearing this, wondering where the positivity was in living in the forest like this. All of Belmaya's words went in one ear and out the other, while Ed's gaze remained fixed downward. The maids of Ophelis Hall are elite women who perfectly manage the cleanliness of the living spaces, including cooking for the students. In that basket are surely the finest ingredients that this maid has gathered from the forest, which are high-level information that I cannot obtain just by reading books. Thinking about this, Ed began to consider what events Belmaya might have that could affect the main plot. Our protagonist was being extremely cautious whenever interacting with any characters mentioned in the story. He had to think about how this character could influence the main storyline and whether his communication with them would alter the plot. Belmaya on this side also began to speak. "You don't need to be so respectful, just talk to me normally like before at Ophelis. How can I speak casually like that with a hard-working maid like you?" As for the basket, Ed said, feeling embarrassed as he rubbed his hands. The reason Ed acted like this was that after checking again, there was no event that Belmaya directly influenced the main storyline. Then it should be fine to befriend her, right? Our protagonist has survived for too long in the forest, so he has taken every opportunity to get more food. As a result, he managed to get this basket of ingredients. At the same time, a notification appeared stating that he had received an explanation about the types of edible mushrooms, berries, and herbs from Belmaya. Completion of the creation craftsmanship has increased. New product fishing net system. You have woven the net correctly, connected it to branches, and set it up to avoid collapsing when encountering underground water. The fish caught in the net will survive for a few days. Difficulty 2 stars. Thanks to the increase in craftsmanship, Ed is earning a lot of meat and fish. His food needs are about to be taken care of. And the continuous use of magic during this survival process has also helped his fire and wind magic levels increase to level 10. I still only possess 2 basic spells, but I've used them so much that I've become proficient. Level 10 without even realizing it. New product herbal tea made from fragrant herbs that Belmaya just taught you. Difficulty 1.5 stars. Using this magic to chop firewood or cook has also significantly increased your chances of survival. The proof is that I finished my work before the sun had set. To be honest, this is quite fun, Ed thought while enjoying the cup of tea he had just brewed. But at this moment a bright spot suddenly appeared in the sky, catching his attention. Ed was still trying to widen his eyes to see what exactly this thing was. To his surprise, the point of light shot straight towards his tent, landing like a shooting star and creating an explosion. Ed was also thrown away by the explosion, landing far outside. Wait until the dust settles. Ed was dizzy at the sight in front of him. What the hell is this? My precious tent. According to Ed's gaze, at this moment, his tent had disappeared and only left behind a pile of rubble. And the entire reason for this was Lucy. Somehow, she had landed like a shooting star in this spot and caused Ed's tent to vaporize. Lucy, with a blank expression, said she almost died. Her words left Ed, who was brushing off dust nearby, in shock, wondering what she meant by she almost died, as Ed couldn't comprehend how the most powerful mage on the continent was talking to him like this. Lucy continued to shiver and said, "Belle Maya. I'm still acting normal, but I don't understand why she's become so sensitive." She comes closer to me with her hand clenched into a fist. I was so surprised that I ran away. Hearing her speak, Ed also asked, "Are you in pain?" "Of course. Do you have any food left?" This made Ed lose it and throw the stick straight at her head, asking her if he was going to ask more when she blew everything away. But then when he saw Lucy rubbing her head where the stick hit her, he was a bit surprised that she didn't have any protective magic. Lucy knew that Ed was wondering, so she explained that her magic was depleted. Hearing this, Ed's tone changed completely, saying, "Oh really, how come?" "First of all, this is the punishment for my house that you destroyed." As he said this, he started to snap his fingers with all his strength. Ed even did it for her part too, out of kindness from Belle Maya. This incident also made Ed feel that he needed a sturdier house, so he decided to build a proper wooden house. And the first thing Ed did was head to the library to search for information. Fortunately, he got all the information he needed at once just by going to the library. He only needed to gather the necessary materials like sand, trim the trees, and finish the roof. At that moment, a voice next to Ed rang out, saying it was time to close. The senior really studies hard, Ed thought, feeling a bit surprised. "Is it already closing time?" "I'm sorry about that," he said. "This girl is Elka Island, a first-year wizard student. If I see someone like you focused on studying, it inspires me to study as well," she said cheerfully, introducing herself to Ed. "What is it?" She looked at him with curiosity, as if she wanted to know his name. Seeing that she had introduced herself and he hadn't said anything, Ed felt a bit awkward, so he replied, "And I'm Ed Rothtaylor." When Elka Island heard this name, her expression darkened, and her eyes seemed to lose their sparkle. Ed doesn't find it strange, it's a familiar reaction, just as expected. His notoriety won't disappear easily. Notoriety is the hardest thing to erase in this academy. While he thinks, Elka Island also speaks up, saying it's completely different from the rumors. "Just in a few days, you has read all the books about fundamental science that I find hard to understand." Even now he just sits in one place diligently reading like that, and has read over 6 specialized books in one go. "Why is there a rumor that you're someone who knows nothing and is just good at pretending and showing off?" "It really is impossible to believe the rumors." Elka Island smiles and continues speaking. "I'm also lucky to have the opportunity to get to know someone sincere and talented like that senior. So I will support you wholeheartedly." "Thank you," Ed says. "So be careful on your way back. I will tidy up this place for a bit and then return to the dorm," she said while saying goodbye to Ed to get back to her work. At that moment, a tremor occurred, startling Ed. Then the tremor became more intense, and the entire library began to shake. And due to the intense tremor, the bookshelves couldn't withstand the impact, so countless books began to fall from above, aiming directly at Elka Island in her terrified gaze. And this tremor also signaled the beginning of the final chapter. The Plasmon battle officially starts in the sky of the academy. A massive magic circle has been formed, then it releases a terrifying wave of power down below. A moment later at 11:30, at the temporary base in front of the conference center, students were bustling with activity led by Taylor's group. Quite a few students had joined the association, and it had been 2 hours since the unexpected disaster occurred. Isla begins to speak. "That is something I saw in the book about magical spirits. That is the highest level dark spirit, the summoning circle of Glaskin. This information makes everyone worried." Fenia also begins to speak. "Bad news is coming because only one person has the ability to perceive high-level spirits to the extent that they can summon a high-level dark spirit like that. That person with high capabilities is our enemy, the top student of 2nd year who has been controlled by the spirit of darkness, Jenica Falover. Everyone knows how powerful and fierce Jenica is, so in this case, they only know to stay silent without coming up with any specific plan." In this silent atmosphere, Taylor is the first to speak. "Unfortunately, this is not the time to do this, but according to Isla's words, we shouldn't prolong the time. If Glaskin is summoned, the casualties will be greater. We have to get inside the student hall." But this is also very dangerous. So many people disagreed, notably the captain of the Royal Guard, Claire. He believes that those outside the barrier will quickly realize what's happening. If the Royal Guard and the professors deal with this situation, they will be able to handle it quickly. However, his words were quickly rebutted. If this is the barrier of a high-level dark spirit formed within the academy, it will be very strong outside, making it difficult to intervene from the outside. This matter must be resolved internally, especially since Principal Abel is also absent. The one who spoke these words is a girl known for her interventions, Alvira Aniston. She is a student of the first-year senior class. At this moment, she continues speaking. If everyone here joins forces, even a high-level spirit can be defeated, right? Clebius Nortondale, a student of the first-year combat class, immediately objects. I object. Going through those intermediate spirits and subduing all the spirit beasts, then entering the building and defeating Jenica, that is too difficult. And that's not all, there are also high-level spirits inside the tower. Apparently there are two of them, the high-level fire spirit, Tarkon, and the high-level dark spirit, Velosfer, are both contained in there. Charging in there is no different from committing suicide. I can't go. Saying this, Clebius begins to scream out of fear. On this side, Lordle also expresses her concern, but is it true that that person is working alone? Even if she is the top student of the second year, isn't this magical power too strong? Summoning and maintaining this dark spirit is not simple at all. Isla thinks of something and also says, perhaps primarily it is the power of the dark spirit Velosfer. Senior Jenica is just a medium for him to control. The dark spirit, the natural enemy of humans according to spiritual theory, that power cannot be controlled by anyone, rather, they are demons trying to shake the peace of this continent. This is why all spiritualists keep their minds clean, staying away from the darkness because they do not want to be corrupted by them. However, Senior Jenica is more skilled than anyone else in the science of dark elements. No one knows how Velosfer managed to exploit her and then control her spirit. Another person offers their opinion that no longer matters now. What matters is the decision of our actions right now. Only one person can decide that. Princess Phinia, please let us know. According to what he said, all eyes turned toward Phinia. In this tense situation, a situation where everyone was waiting for Phinia's decision. Suddenly, the words of the indifferent guy, Ed, that she had heard before flashed through her mind. No matter what burdens I carry, I can never compare to the burden that the princess has to bear at this moment, right? You will have to make quite a few decisions that are not at all simple. If only I could live as freely as he does, Phinia thought, then she also began to make a decision. We will enter in 1 hour later. However, including me and my escort Claire, the top students from each class and the students of Class A, only those with proven skills will enter there, so everyone, please prepare yourselves. I will take responsibility for leading this battle, Phinia declared firmly. At that moment, another person asked, Princess, what about the remaining people? Audrey Hall and Potion Archives, everyone is sitting in protest, refusing to participate. It's hard to expect anything from them until now. Besides, not many students share their opposing views. The words of this guy made Phinia a bit headache. In fact, we are the only ones capable of acting in this battle. When I was at the library, in the remaining student library, there was an assistant librarian and a second-year student. Really? What are their names? Phinia asked. Elka Island? Ziggs was startled and quickly asked. Elka Island? Yes, we are studying magic management together in the class with the librarian apprentice. After confirming, Ziggs immediately turned and left. Damn, I have to find her right now. Elka has no ability to defend herself. But Lordle and Phinia hurriedly stopped him. Calm down, Ziggs, the library is still quite far away. There's no rush to get there. What we need to do now is subdue Senior Jenica, the one who is the cause of this problem. Phinia also agreed. That's right, Ziggs. Besides, there's another second-year student in the library. Why don't we trust that person now? Ziggs heard this and still worriedly asked who that is. Phinia also turned to ask this purple-haired girl, is there really another student in the library? Ziggs heard this and immediately teleported in front of her, then grabbed her collar and said, don't hide it, just tell me. At this moment, the girl with purple hair hesitantly said 2 words, Ed Rothtaylor. Right after hearing this name, Ziggs's face became extremely terrifying. I'm sorry, that person sat until late at night. I was so annoyed that I assigned that task to Elka and left. You all know what kind of person he is. Elka is the type of person who doesn't care about rumors, so the other students began to discuss. Ed Rothtaylor is that immoral person, and is the librarian alone in the library. This statement was no different for Ziggs than throwing more fuel onto his anger. Both Lordle and Phinia realized that Ziggs had reached his limit. So Phinia quickly reached out to stop Ziggs while saying, wait a minute everyone. Even so, should we trust that person once? This statement turned everyone else to stone. Even Phinia was surprised, unsure of what she had just said. Ziggs was taken aback by Phinia's nonsensical statement. Then he immediately flew away. Running straight to the library, he swiftly dealt with all the spirit beasts that dared to obstruct his path. If Ed dares to lay a finger on even a single hair of Elka, I will make sure he dies a gruesome death. Just with the phrase, the dragonborn on the stream, one cannot explain the miraculous existence of Ziggs. Ziggs must have lived like a primitive man in the past, hunting daily for food, and today is no different. Looked at its size, it was a fully grown male. Looking at the state of the surrounding vegetation, it had just passed through here. Just with a quick glance at the traces, Ziggs was able to determine his target for the hunt. Not long after, he spotted a large deer right in front of him. In the northern plains of the Empire, a savage land where even the might of the royal family could not reach. It is a world where, at the end of the day, you must feel fortunate that your head is still attached to your neck. Ziggs is a descendant of a nomadic tribe that lives there, but he became lost during his upbringing. I don't know how I ended up lost in the human world. I don't know when I became lost. I don't know if I can return to the life I had back there. I learned how to slit a deer's throat before I learned how to read. Instead of buying something at the store, the first thing I learned was how to loot goods and items from the corpses along the road. It's hard to believe, isn't it? That's the life of a beast. And this only changed when he met Elka Island. She was the first one to ask for his name and strike up a conversation with Ziggs. You dress like a wolf walking on two legs. And that was the moment he realized that a life wandering the vast northern prairies. The boy made the moon his roof, eating the carcasses of animals lying by the road, which could very well be a pup abandoned by its pack. Ziggs was truly very lonely. Soon after, Elka Island took Ziggs to her home. She and her parents welcomed Ziggs as if he were family. When Ziggs chased the fast pace of civilization, humanity's savage life became a distant past. A wolf cub has become a true human. But if it's to protect her, he is willing to become a monster once again. Ed Rothtailor is a person with a dirty personality, cheating in exams, insulting the princess, and playing tricks on the younger female students. Not long after, Ziggs also arrived at the library. And as soon as he saw Ed, he shouted, "Where's Elka? What have you done, Ed Rothtailor? Elka is where? Say it now." "She is in reading room number 3. As soon as he heard the answer, Ziggs immediately rushed there quickly. "Are you okay, Elka?" In the room at this moment, Elka was still sleeping peacefully, as if nothing had happened. Seeing this, Ziggs finally let out a sigh of relief. Thank goodness, this is truly a huge relief. After that, he calmed down, observing his surroundings and thinking, now that I think about it. The bookshelves, so large that even a grown man would struggle to lift them, were positioned around Elka as if they were protecting her. The curtains were carefully arranged to block the view of the rebellious spirits outside. Then Ziggs noticed the words written on the board. "When you wake up, don't panic and stay here. Everything will be over before dawn, so calmly block the entrance and don't provoke the spirits. Always prioritize your own safety and don't rush to move." From these details, Ziggs realized that someone had tried to protect Elka Island. Then, when he looked at the cloth covering Elka Island, he saw blood and realized it wasn't Elka's. As he thought, he glanced toward the trail of blood leading out the door, and at that moment, Ziggs understood everything. Despite being injured, he still didn't take care of himself. The blood of the person protecting Elka Island belongs to Ed, but in the end, why did this happen? This story goes back to 3 hours ago, when Ed managed to protect Elka just before the bookshelf collapsed. But this happened quicker than he anticipated. Looking at the summoning circle, the conquest of Glaskin had begun, and someone would know how to handle it. I don't need to pay too much attention to a place like that, a gathering spot for many high-profile figures. Because the future cannot be changed, time is money, and I can't just sit idly by. A moment later, the lower-level spirits would rush out, so I have to block the entrance to prevent the spirits from getting in. At this moment, I will arrange things to make this place safer. Now, while eating a piece of dried beef he brought, he would spend the entire night researching materials. Ed was thinking as he began to move the bookshelves to create a barrier, but suddenly, he remembered something. The reason why Jenika's skills are special lies in her proficiency and skill in understanding spirits and sensing them. These attributes increase through contact with the spirits, because the ability to meet and communicate with spirits is inherently a rare talent. For me, someone who can't even see the spirits, it's nearly impossible to enhance attributes like hers. But the spirits appearing, are they summoned by Jenika? I will enjoy this sweet event. So then, Ed started to charge in wildly, fighting against the spirits. Recalling that moment, Ed felt he was indeed going crazy. His fire elemental magic had reached level 12, while both his spirit sensitivity and spirit understanding had risen to level 7. It was said that if combined and exceeded level 15, he could create a spirit contract. If he tried a little harder, there was a possibility, but right now, it seemed he had reached the limits of his body's endurance. Pushing any further would be very dangerous. At that moment, Rich was also carrying Elka Island outside and asked, "What are you doing just sitting there?" Ed felt a bit confused and wondered why he was asking that. He couldn't ignore the truth that he was resting with a lot of injuries. He didn't need to answer in a roundabout way. Thinking this, he said, "I sat down to meditate," and Ziggs let out a sigh, then thought, "I practiced until I felt like a 3-year-old, still unable to believe that answer." After thinking that, he said, "Really, now I feel like I can understand a bit about you as a person. From the very beginning, you've always been that kind of person. I really owe you a lot, Senior Ed," he said as he bowed his head to thank Ed. "When I have the chance, I will definitely repay this debt." Ed was also thinking that Elka Island is definitely Ziggs's girlfriend from the very beginning, and her name even appeared in the guidebook. "I almost forget. It seems that Elka Island is quite important to Ziggs, so." Thinking about this, he opened his mouth and looked at the situation. He said, "It seemed like you had left the student union and come here." When he was sure that Elka Island was safe, he said to continue with his work and quickly go back to the student union. "Go help Taylor. If you do as he says, everything will somehow be resolved." "Taylor? You mean Taylor McClure?" "That's right. That guy always manages to avoid failure by a hair's breadth." Ziggs found it confusing. He said he didn't understand why Taylor was rated so highly. He mentioned that he had never even talked to that guy. Ed began to explain that the issue was with Tarkan's shell, a high-level evil spirit that could only be harmed by his elemental slicing attack. He further clarified that the main skill Taylor learned in the first stage was the elemental slicing attack. This battle strategy depended on that skill. If they could make Taylor use that skill, their chances of winning would be very high. "Thank you for the guidance. There's no time, so hurry up and go. I'll rest here for a while." Watching the two of them leave, Ed thought to himself that he had given a lot of advice and hoped that the plan would succeed. But at that moment, he also had a question: why hadn't Ziggs made friends with Taylor yet? In the first scene of the 9th act during the end-of-term evaluation, in the duel between the two, Taylor was defeated but learned how to slash through elements and break Ziggs' spell. After seeing his opponent's determination, Ziggs recognized Taylor, and in the end, they both became friends. However, the final chapter of the first act, which was supposed to take place a month earlier than scheduled, meant that the end-of-term evaluation in the 9th act did not occur. Therefore, the two had not yet become friends. And Taylor had not yet learned Elemental Slash. No one in the current combat force could inflict damage on Tarkan. At this moment, Ed still didn't realize that the entire development according to the storyline had collapsed. At this moment, in the student square, where the attacking forces were stationed, Ziggs bowed his head and apologized to everyone, saying he was sorry for being late and that he would definitely pay for his mistakes. Everyone looked pretty worn out because the attack team had failed in the first round. At that moment, Phineas also spoke up, saying that even with Ziggs, it seemed like they would still be defeated. On this side, Claire also spoke up, suggesting that if everyone planned to attack again, it would be best to gather more volunteers. He said he would join as soon as the pain in her leg went away. Phineas replied, telling Claire to rest for now since she couldn't walk normally at the moment. The Princess of Phineas said that if she truly cared about him, she should withdraw her orders. Upon hearing his words, Phineas started to tremble and replied that she also had something called a human heart. At the same time, she thought that fortunately, the retreat had been successful, but Claire had lost all his strength. Clebius, the president of the first-year combat club, was also injured. What on earth had happened? Thinking of this, she began to speak. "First, use all remaining strength to defeat Tarkan." Suddenly, at that moment, a voice rang out, "We don't have the spare time to take down Tarkan. Looking at the state of the summoning ritual, it will be completed soon. Please divide the fighting team into 2 groups. I will lead a group and do things my way. The one coming is Ed because Taylor couldn't use Elemental Slash, so he has to join this battle." Everyone was incredibly amazed to hear Ed make this statement. Clebius immediately spoke up, "Oh my, this situation feels like a joke. But Ziggs has reached out to stop. Just listen to what he has to say first." On this side, Ed continues to explain that we must overcome the fire spirit Tarkan summoned by Jenica and deal with Jenica, who is being controlled by the dark spirit. But I'm sure everyone has faced Tarkan before, so they know that because of its shell, we can't use our strength to deal damage. If that's the case, then we shouldn't confront Tarkan directly. When one team attracts its attention, the other team will enter the training area to subdue Jenica, who is being controlled. If Tarkhan is ignored, then it will only be necessary to deal with Jenica. Lordle hurriedly said it was impossible. It was completely different from what was known about Tarkhan during the combat training. The only reason we could retreat was due to luck. If the bait team fails and Tarkhan switches to the suppression team, or if the bait team is completely wiped out, then in the end, we will have to deal with both issues at the same time. The risk is too great. Ed is also very aware of this, so he said that considering the level of risk can only be done when there are alternative options. Ultimately, the most important goal is to subdue Jenica. At that point, Tarkhan will also be neutralized. The question is who will belong to the team that Ziggs refers to as the debate team. Everyone around has started to gossip about that group. Isn't it just like committing suicide? Over here, the main character Taylor immediately raised his hand to volunteer for the bait team, but their words were quickly rebutted. Don't do that. Go inside. No matter what, you are still part of the fighting group. Taylor is still trying to explain. I have quick legs. I don't know how long I can run. If I have to sacrifice, then it's the right thing to do. Over here, Ed is trying to push him in and saying that he's misunderstanding something. We don't have to choose a sacrifice. It doesn't necessarily have to be divided either. Clebius and Lordle will be able to do that. 3 people, including myself, will lure Tarkhan. The 2 of them behind will start shouting. Clebius said, "Why does it have to be me? I don't want to die," while Lordle is saying, "I will politely decline this, you know." Ed tried to convince them to believe that he had a way to bind Tarkhan. No, how could he deal with Ed Rothtaylor and Tarkhan? "I'm about to die," Clebius shouted. But over here, Phenia has also started to speak up. "What you said is not wrong at all. I still don't know the purpose, but I command everyone in the name of Phenia alias Chloe, the 3rd princess of the Chloe Empire. Divide the combat team into 2 groups with different missions. I, Taylor, Ziggs, Elvira, and Isla will be the team to take down Jenica. Ed, Clebius, and Lordle will be bait for Tarkhan. Finally, but no less importantly, I will speak briefly because time is running out. Anyway, never give up, and must never fail." After that, both teams began to split up to carry out their tasks. At this moment in the hallway where Tarkhan is on guard, Lordle looked at Ed anxiously and asked how to buy more time with that fire lizard. Ed calmly replied, "Just follow my lead and stick to the plan. We will win no matter what." After saying that, all 3 of them began to charge towards the fire lizard. At that moment, he also didn't forget to tell Clebius not to worry. "Clebius, we will be able to do it." Clebius is very timid and lacks confidence in his abilities, so he needs a little boost of self-assurance. But Clebius over here noticed Ed's confident expression and thought, why is he so self-assured? Is there really a method to win? In the training room behind that door is Jenica Falover. All I need to do is lure Tarkhan. The princess's resilient demeanor impressed me, and I followed her all the way here. But because I'm not alone, perhaps I can gather all my courage and move forward. At this moment, when Clebius faced the fire lizard, he saw it begin to gather breath in its mouth. Clebius hurriedly turned back, worried, asking, "It's coming, the battle has begun, how to lure it now?" Sadly, when he turned around, those 2 had vanished without a trace. This scene makes his face look completely foolish. Now it's just him left to face this lizard alone. As a reaction, Clebius used all his strength to accelerate as fast as he could, saying, "You lied to me? Why are you treating me like this? Hey, where are those crazy guys? This place is so hateful. I hate this world." Clebius started running and screaming. But at this moment, Lordle is outside in the hallway. Earlier, Ed told her, "Let's go outside before we've pushed Clebius into the hallway to lure that monster." "What you mean is that in the end, you will sacrifice Clebius. It might not be so bad to do that to save many people, but you won't escape moral criticism either. It's not really a sacrifice. Just by looking at him, you can tell he's got the makings of a leader. His strength and agility are truly impressive. With this action, the most important role will be yours, Lordle. You are the one deserving of the role of ensuring a safe entry for the Jenica suppression team. In fact, you will play an important role in establishing a safe corridor for the Tarkhan assault team." Well, it's really impossible to judge others when you're relying on rumors. Lordle just mentioned that, and at this moment, countless magical circles are appearing behind her. Everyone is hesitating, unsure whether to do it or not, but you're good at these kinds of things. Gently blow it away. So, according to Ed, she used her magic to break through the wall and create a safe shortcut for the suppression team. At the same time, she was also reflecting on the moment during their practice match when he had witnessed her blowing away the ceiling with a banned intermediate level spell. So that's why he assigned me this role. An interesting guy, isn't he, Ed Rothtailor? Anyway, the way-in has been secured, the rest is. She spoke while turning her face backward. At the same time, Clebius had also pulled the fire lizard out of the hallway. Lordle, Ed, do you really think I'm dead? I won't let you off the hook that easily. And now they must face the real danger. Even if the campaign is successful and the fighting forces enter safely without encountering Tarkon, she and Clemius still have to deal with this lizard now that it has jumped out. If they fought this lizard in a hallway with no escape, they would definitely die immediately. Only when pulling it out can they have a chance. Because the monster has a protective shell, no attack is effective. Because of that, Lordle is currently trying to buy time to let Ed go get the secret weapon. If there were no elements, none of the team members could injure Tarkon. What is necessary is overwhelming firepower and his backup plan. It's just that Lucy is sleeping somewhere. When Ed picked her up, Lucy was still dazed, wondering what was happening. She was trembling and half asleep. When Ed heard these words, he was furious. How could she possibly close her eyes at that moment? Lucy, who has no place to sleep because her shelter has been destroyed, has gone to the rooftop where she used to sleep before. At the same time, Jenica's mood worsened, and Belle Maya became sensitive to that. So Lucy ran away, using all her magical strength to escape and fell asleep in exhaustion. This could be a change in the scenario by putting such an unbalanced human into the battle, but now is not the time to choose this or that. So he started pulling out some beef to wake Lucy up. As soon as she caught a whiff of the meat, she woke up immediately. Oh, it smells like dried beef. As soon as she woke up, Ed immediately stuffed a bunch of beef into her mouth, telling her to eat up and eat a lot. Then you started grabbing Lucy by the collar and got into a ready position. The opponent was a fire lizard, and there would be a distance to throw her towards the monster. But there's nothing to worry about, Ed has done this many times while playing games. Everyone lie down, he shouted and threw Lucy straight towards the lizard. Over here, the lizard is also getting ready to shoot its tongue out. Seeing this scene also scared Lucy to death. You are so mean. And just as she flew between the lizard and the Lordle group, then her whole body began to burst forth with a surge of lightning, which is exactly what Ed had been hoping for. High-rank electrokinesis divine punishment. Then a terrible lightning bolt struck down, and Lordle hurriedly set up a barrier to protect. But the pressure from the explosion also blew Ed away. Luckily, he managed to grab the railing in time. In a way, this is an important moment. Tarkon is a high-level fire spirit that cannot be defeated even when everyone rushes at it, because its protective shell was too strong. But now after Lucy hit it with high-level magic, even its hard shell has been broken. Now it will take damage from their attacks, and of course, when he kills it, Ed will receive a huge amount of experience. At this point, he doesn't need to care about anything else anymore. The final blow to finish off that monster must definitely be mine.